Happy New Year, Mom. Now go.
Those were the words my son said before slamming the door in my face. The sound echoed down the hallway. I stood there, suitcase in hand, unable to move. I had endured a 12-hour bus ride just to spend New Year's with him, and he had just thrown me out as if I were a stranger. My name is Martha Bennett. I am 60 years old, and that was the night my life changed forever. I still remember the cold of that hallway. It was not just winter cold. It was the cold of rejection, of abandonment, of realizing that your own child can look at you as if you are in the way. I had spent 6 months preparing for that trip. Jason had been living in Chicago, Illinois for nearly 20 years. He had married Victoria, a woman who never once spoke to me with genuine warmth. I was not looking for trouble. I only wanted to spend New Year's with my son, to see him, to hug him, to remind him that his mother was still here. That afternoon on New Year's Eve, I arrived at his building exhausted but hopeful. I was carrying homemade hand pies I had prepared with my own hands, his favorite since childhood. They were wrapped with all the love a mother can put into something so simple. I rang the bell and heard footsteps. The door opened just a few inches. It was him, my Jason, but his eyes looked like those of someone who did not recognize me. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I came to spend New Year's with you, son. I called you last week, do you not remember?" He glanced over his shoulder. From inside I heard Victoria's voice. "Who is it, Jason?" "It is my mom," he replied without opening the door any wider. There was silence. 3 seconds that felt endless to me. I heard Victoria's steps approaching. She appeared beside him and looked me up and down with pure disdain. "You did not tell us you were coming," she said with a fake smile. "I did tell you. I spoke with Jason last Monday." My son looked away. "Mom, it is not a good time. We have plans." "Plans? It is New Year's. I thought we could be together." Victoria crossed her arms. "We have a reservation at a very elegant restaurant. You cannot just show up like this without notice. As if I were a problem. As if my presence were an inconvenience. I only want to spend a little time with you. I do not need to go to any dinner. I can stay here, wait for you, or leave early." Jason sighed. He looked at me with eyes that once held love and now showed only discomfort. "Mom, honestly, it is not a good time. I am your mother. I traveled 12 hours to see you." "You should have warned us earlier," Victoria interrupted. "We cannot change our plans like this." I felt something break inside me, but I tried to stay calm. "All right. Can I at least come in for a glass of water? I am very tired." Victoria looked at Jason. He shook his head. "Better not, Mom. The place is a mess." A mess. I could see behind them. The living room was spotless, shining. Fresh flowers, crystal glasses ready, everything prepared for a celebration. A celebration I was not part of. "Son, please." "Mom, I already told you it is not a good time." Then Victoria smiled. A cold, calculated smile. "Maybe you can come back another time with more notice. Today we cannot have you stay." To have me stay as if I were an unwanted guest. As if I were not the woman who gave birth to Jason, who raised him alone after his father abandoned us, who worked double shifts for years so he could study at the University of Chicago. I looked at my son, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to remember everything we had been through together. But he only lowered his gaze. "I am sorry, Mom. Happy New Year." And he closed the door. I stood there in front of that closed door, listening to the lock click. I heard their voices fading away. I heard laughter, Victoria's laughter. For the first time in many years, I felt completely alone in the world. I picked up my suitcase, walked slowly down the stairs, and stepped outside the building. It was already getting dark. The streets were filling with happy people carrying food and bottles, getting ready to celebrate. I had nowhere to go. I did not know anyone in that city. The last bus back to my small town in Alabama had left an hour earlier. I walked without direction. My legs were shaking. I did not know whether from the cold or from sadness. I reached a plaza. There was a bench under a tree. I sat down, opened my suitcase, took out the homemade hand pies I had prepared with so much love, and started to cry. I cried silently so no one would see me fall apart. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much, do we not? Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read you. The night went on and the cold grew stronger. I was still there, sitting on that bench, not knowing what to do or what to feel. Then I saw something that would change everything. On the other side of the plaza, a figure was moving slowly. It was an elderly woman walking barefoot. Her feet, swollen and dirty, brushed against the pavement. She wore an old, torn dress and was shivering from the cold. People passed by without looking at her, as if she did not exist. But I saw her. And something inside me, despite my own pain, made me stand up. Before I tell you what happened that night with the elderly woman, you need to know who I was, who I had been before that moment. I'm Martha Bennett. I was born in a small town in Alabama, where everyone knows one another and doors are left unlocked. I grew up surrounded by the smell of fresh biscuits and the sound of church bells marking the hours. I married young. I was barely 20 when I met Thomas, Jason's father. He was a handsome, hard-working man with strong hands and gentle words. We were married in June 1983. I still remember that day, my simple white dress, the magnolias my mother braided into my hair, and the look in Thomas's eyes when he saw me walking down the aisle. I believed it would last forever. Jason was born a year later, in April 1984. He was the most beautiful baby I had ever seen. He had his father's eyes and my small nose. He hardly cried and smiled all the time. From the very first day, I knew he would be my reason for living. Thomas worked in construction. I stayed home, caring for Jason, cooking, cleaning, waiting for my husband to return each afternoon. We were poor, yes, but I thought we were happy. The first years were good. Thomas played with Jason in the yard, lifted him onto his shoulders, and taught him the names of the birds flying over the house. But people change. When Jason turned 5, Thomas began coming home late. He smelled of beer and sometimes of a perfume that was not mine. I asked questions. He grew angry, shouted at me, told me I was boring, unambitious. One morning in November 1989, I woke up and Thomas was gone. His clothes had disappeared. His toothbrush was no longer in the bathroom. On the kitchen table lay a crumpled note. Can't take this life anymore. Sorry. 6 words. An entire life reduced to 6 words on a dirty piece of paper. Jason asked about his father for months. Where is Dad, Mom? He went to work far away, my love. He will be back soon. I was lying. Thomas never came back. He never called, never asked about his son. He vanished as if we had never existed. I was left alone with a 5-year-old child and no money. I had to learn how to survive. I found work at the laundry shop. I woke up at 5 in the morning, left Jason with my mother, and worked until nightfall. My hands cracked from soap and hot water. My back ached from standing all day at the folding tables, but I did not care. I did it for my son. Jason grew up healthy and bright. He was the top student in his school. His teacher said he had a brilliant future, that he could go far if he studied. I clung to that hope with everything I had. I worked harder. I saved every dollar. Many times I skipped meals so he could have a new notebook. I wore old clothes, patched over and over, so my son could have new shoes without holes. When Jason finished middle school, I cried with pride. And when he entered high school, I felt that every sacrifice had been worth it. The day we were told he had received a scholarship to study economics at the University of Chicago, I felt as if I were touching the sky. Mom, I am going to make you proud, he told me when he left. Everything you did for me, I will repay 100 times over. I hugged him, kissed his forehead, and gave him my blessing. Be happy, son. That is all I need. The first years in Chicago, Illinois were good. Jason called me every week. He told me about his classes, his friends, his dreams. I sent him money when I could and homemade hand pies when he missed the food from home. He graduated with honors in 2006. I traveled to be there. I sat in the last row of the auditorium, wearing my nicest dress, crying with happiness as I watched him walk onto the stage to receive his diploma. That day he told me, Mom, this is for you. Everything I am is because of you. And I felt that everything had been worth it. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every ache. After that, Jason found a good job at a major company. He started earning money, a lot of money, more than I had ever seen in my entire life. And little by little, the calls became less frequent. Once a week became once every 2 weeks, then once a month, and then almost never. In 2018, Jason called to tell me he had gotten married. Married? Why did you not tell me, son? I would have liked to be there. It was something small, Mom. Very private. Just the two of us and the judge. His wife's name was Victoria. She came from a well-off family. She had studied at private schools, spoke multiple languages, and wore designer brands I didn't even know how to pronounce. I met her only once, when I visited them 6 months after the wedding. She greeted me with a kiss on the cheek, the way one greets a distant acquaintance. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Bennett," she said with a perfect cold smile. Not mother-in-law. Not Mom. Mrs. Bennett, as if I were a stranger. During that visit, which lasted barely 3 days, I noticed many things. Victoria never let me into the kitchen. She said she had already cooked, that I should not worry. But I wanted to cook for my son, to prepare his favorite dishes. Jason did not insist either. He only smiled and said, "It is fine, Mom. Rest. You worked hard your whole life." But I did not want to rest. I wanted to feel useful. I wanted to know I still had a place in my son's life. Before leaving, I gave him money. It was $500, everything I had managed to save that year. "Here, son, so you can buy something you need." He looked at the money and then looked at Victoria. She smiled with disdain. "Mom, we do well. You do not need to give me money. I want to. Please accept it." Jason took it, but I saw the shame in his eyes. Shame that his wife had seen his poor mother handing him money. I returned to my small town in Alabama with a heavy heart. Something had changed in my son. He was no longer the child who used to hug me tightly. He was no longer the young man who called me to tell me about his dreams. He was someone different, someone I no longer recognized. The years that followed were hard. The calls became rare. The visits disappeared entirely. I tried not to be a burden. I did not want to be the inconvenient mother-in-law or the meddling mother. But I missed my son. I missed his voice, his laughter. And then December 2024 arrived. I decided I would not spend another New Year's alone. Even if Jason did not invite me, I would go see him, even if only to hug him and remind him that his mother still existed. I prepared his favorite homemade hand pies, bought my bus ticket, and endured that 12-hour bus ride with hope in my heart. I never imagined he would slam the door in my face. As I tell you all this, I wonder where you are listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. I want to know I am not alone. Now I return to that New Year's night. To that bench in the plaza. To that barefoot elderly woman who would change my life forever. Because sometimes when everything seems lost, life sends you a sign. The woman was walking slowly across the plaza. Her bare feet left small wet marks on the cold pavement. I watched her from the bench, the homemade hand pies still resting on my lap, my tears drying on my cheeks. People passed by without looking at her. Some stepped aside in disgust. A young couple crossed the street. A man in a suit shouted at her to get out of the way. She did not respond. She kept walking, trembling. I felt something strange in my chest, a mix of sadness and anger. How could people be so cruel? How could they ignore someone who so clearly needed help? Then I remembered that I, too, had been ignored that night. My own son had treated me as if I did not exist. Maybe that is why I could see her. Because I also knew what it felt like to be invisible. I stood up from the bench and walked toward her, even though my legs were still shaking. When I reached her, I saw her more clearly. Her hair was white, tangled, and dirty. Her face was marked by years and suffering. Her tired eyes held a light that was hard to explain. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said softly. She stopped and looked at me. "Yes, dear," she replied, her voice weak but kind. "It is very cold. Do you have somewhere to spend the night?" She smiled sadly. "No, dear. I have nowhere to go. But do not worry, I am used to it." That word broke my heart. I looked at her feet, swollen and covered in sores. I asked her to wait a moment. I ran back to the bench, opened my suitcase and took out my thickest sweater, the one I had brought for the cold of the city. I also took my sandals, simple but comfortable. I returned to her. "Please, ma'am, take these. Put them on." She looked at me in surprise. "No, dear. I cannot accept this. You are cold too." "Please," I insisted. In the end she accepted. She put on the sweater with trembling hands and then the sandals. When she stood up, her eyes were wet. May God bless you, dear. Very few people even look at me. What is your name, ma'am? She hesitated for a moment. You can call me Eleanor Vanderbilt Hayes. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. I'm Martha Bennett. We stood there in the middle of the plaza while people kept passing by, getting ready to celebrate. In the distance, fireworks began to echo. There were less than 2 hours until midnight. And what are you doing here alone, Martha? Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes asked. A woman like you should be with her family. I felt a lump in my throat. My family does not want me near them tonight. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes nodded with understanding as if she knew exactly what I meant. Children sometimes forget where they come from, she said gently. They go out into the world and become ashamed of their roots. Do you have children? Her expression darkened. I had a daughter. She died 5 years ago. Since then I have been alone. I am so sorry. That is life, dear. Some leave, others stay, and you learn to keep going. We sat down together on the bench. I opened my bag and took out the homemade hand pies. Are you hungry, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes? Her eyes lit up immediately. I have not eaten anything since morning. Then we will eat together, I said. I made them for my son, but he did not want them. We unwrapped the homemade hand pies. They were still slightly warm. The rich aroma mixed with the cold night air. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes took the first bite and closed her eyes. It has been years since I ate something this good, she said, her voice trembling. Thank you, Martha. Thank you from my heart. We ate in silence for a few minutes. Around us, families passed by laughing, carrying bags, hurrying to get home before midnight. Do you know something, Martha? Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes said suddenly. I have walked these streets for 5 years. Since I lost my home, I have seen thousands of people pass by. And do you know how many have stopped to ask if I need anything? How many? 3. You are the third. Only 3 people in 5 years. I felt sadness wash over me. People are afraid, she continued. Afraid of seeing poverty, afraid of seeing suffering. Because if they see it, they have to accept that one day they could be in my place. You are not frightening, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, I said. You just need help. She smiled gently. You have a very kind soul, dear. That is why I am sure something good will happen to you. Life always rewards good people. I did not believe her. Sitting on that freezing bench after being rejected by my own son, I did not think life rewarded anything. I said nothing. I just kept eating, sharing that moment with a stranger who, in a strange way, felt closer than my own blood. When we finished eating, I put the remaining homemade hand pies back into the bag. I thought that maybe the next day I could sell them and get some money for a ticket home. Do you have somewhere to sleep tonight, Martha? Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes asked. No. The last bus has already left, and I do not have money for a hotel. I know a shelter near here for people without homes. It is not nice, but at least you would be indoors. And where will you sleep? There is a doorway 2 streets down. I usually sleep there. It is sheltered from the wind. I looked at her. This woman, who just minutes earlier had been walking barefoot with no home, was still thinking about helping me. No, I said. We will go to the shelter together. She shook her head. It only has 3 beds, and on New Year's it is always full. It is better if you go. Then we will sleep together in the doorway. No, dear. Please, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. You gave me your company when I needed it most. Now let me give you mine. She looked at me closely and then smiled. A smile full of gratitude and affection. All right, Martha. We will go together. We stood up from the bench. I picked up my suitcase. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes adjusted the sweater I had given her, and we began walking together toward the doorway. The streets were growing emptier. People were already at home getting ready to toast. We, on the other hand, were walking toward a cold doorway to spend the night. And yet something strange was happening. Despite the pain in my chest, despite Jason's rejection, despite having no home that night, I felt at peace. I was not alone. I had found someone who needed me just as much as I needed company. We reached the doorway. It was the entrance to an old building with stone columns and a high ceiling. The marble floor was cold but clean. In one corner, pieces of cardboard were stacked. "This is where I sleep," Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes said. "It is not much, but it will protect us from the cold." We spread the cardboard on the ground and sat on it. I took a blanket from my suitcase and shared it with her. Fireworks began to explode in the sky. It was 11 o'clock. 1 hour remained until the new year. "May I ask you a question, Martha?" Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes said. "Of course." "Why did you help me?" "No one does. Everyone ignores me." "Why did you not?" I thought about it. Maybe because I had also been rejected that night. Maybe because I saw my own pain in her. Or maybe simply because it was the right thing to do. "Because you are a mother too," I finally answered. "And mothers should not be alone on the street on New Year's." Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes said nothing. She just took my hand and squeezed it tightly. The minutes passed and the fireworks grew louder. In the distance we could hear shouts of happiness, people toasting and embracing. We were there in that cold doorway, two women forgotten by the world. But we were not alone, and in that moment that was enough. Although I did not yet know it, my life was about to change. Because sometimes, when you do something good without expecting anything in return, life rewards you in ways you could never imagine. Midnight arrived with a roar. The sky lit up as if stars were falling. Cries of Happy New Year echoed throughout the city. People hugged, toasted, and kissed beneath the fireworks. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes and I looked at each other. She smiled sadly. "Happy New Year, Martha." "Happy New Year, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes." We had no champagne, no grapes. We only had each other, and in that moment it was enough. The fireworks lasted almost 20 minutes. After that, little by little, the noise faded. The streets fell silent. The city went to sleep. We tried to sleep as well. We curled up under the blanket, trying to keep warm, but the cold was intense. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jason's face, his averted gaze, his hand closing the door. "Can you not sleep?" Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes asked in the darkness. "Not really." "Are you thinking about your son?" "Yes." There was a pause. "Do you know what is the hardest part of all this, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes?" I said. "It is not that he closed the door on me. It is not that he left me out on the street. It is that he could not even look me in the eyes, as if he were ashamed that I am his mother." "Children sometimes lose their way, Martha," she replied. "They get lost in the world, in money, in appearances, and they forget what truly matters." "I gave him everything," I said. "Everything I had. I worked until my hands bled so he could study. I went hungry so he could have new shoes. And now I am an inconvenience to him." Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes sighed. "A mother's love is the most selfless love there is, but also the most painful. Children grow up, they leave, and sometimes when they come back they are no longer the same." "Did your daughter make you suffer too?" "No. My daughter was always good to me until the day she died. But I have seen many mothers go through what you are living now." "And what did those mothers do?" "Some forgave. Others walked away. But all of them kept living. Because that is what we mothers do, Martha. We keep going even when our hearts are broken. We stay silent and move forward." The cold continued to sink into my bones. I pulled the blanket tighter around myself. "Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, may I ask you something?" "Of course, dear." "How did you end up on the street?" She took a moment to answer. When she did, her voice sounded distant, as if she were touching a very painful memory. "I lost my husband 20 years ago. He was a good man. He worked at a factory and earned a decent living. We had a modest house, but it was ours. When he died, I was left alone with my daughter. She was 30 and lived with me because she was ill. Breast cancer." She paused and took a deep breath. "I sold everything to pay for her treatment. The house, the furniture, even my wedding ring. I spent every dollar trying to save her, but I could not. She died in 2019 on her birthday. She was turning 35. I am so sorry, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. When she died, I was left with nothing. No home, no money, no family. I tried to work, but I was older by that time and no one would hire me. I ended up on the street and I have been here ever since." I listened with my heart clenched. That woman had lost absolutely everything and still had the generosity to share her space with me. You are very strong, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. I am not strong, Martha. I am just a survivor. There is a difference. Eventually we fell asleep, or at least I tried to. The cold woke me again and again. I could hear Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes's breathing beside me, uneven and labored. The hours passed slowly. When dawn came, January 1st arrived under a gray, icy sky. I got up sore and stiff. My whole body ached from sleeping on the ground. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes was still asleep. Her face looked tired and fragile. I let her rest and stepped outside. The city was empty. The streets were littered with remnants of the celebration. Plastic cups, streamers, broken bottles. I walked aimlessly. I needed to think. I had to decide what I was going to do. The next bus back to my small town in Alabama left at 3 in the afternoon. I had to get money for the ticket. I had to go home. And yet something inside me ached. A part of me did not want to leave. I did not want to accept that my son had rejected me. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, that everything had been a misunderstanding. Without knowing why, I walked to Jason's building. Maybe I hoped that in the light of day, everything would look different. Maybe I wanted him to come down to apologize, to invite me inside. I arrived and stood on the sidewalk looking up. His apartment was on the 3rd floor. The curtains were still closed. I waited for almost an hour. People went in and out of the building. Some looked at me with curiosity, others with disdain. "Are you lost, ma'am?" an older woman asked me. "No. I am waiting for my son." "Does your son live here?" "Yes, on the 3rd floor." She looked me up and down. My wrinkled clothes, my messy hair. It was obvious I had spent the night on the street. "Oh," she said coldly and walked away. I kept waiting, but Jason did not come out. The curtains remained closed. Finally, around 10 in the morning, I gave up. I returned to the doorway where I had left Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. She was already awake. She had folded the blanket and stacked the cardboard. "Good morning, Martha. Where did you go?" "Just for a walk." She looked at me closely as if she knew exactly where I had been. "You went to look for your son, did you not?" I could not lie. "Yes." "And did you see him?" "No. He did not come out." Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes sighed. "Listen to me carefully, Martha. Sometimes we have to accept that the people we love no longer want us close. It hurts, we do not understand it, but we have to learn to let go." "He is my son," I replied. "He is the only one I have. I cannot simply let him go." "I am not telling you to let him go," she clarified. "I am telling you to stop chasing him. If he wants to come back, he will. But it has to be his decision. You cannot force him." Her words hurt because I knew they were true, but I was not ready to accept them yet. "I have to leave at 3 this afternoon," I said. "The bus back to my small town in Alabama leaves then." "Do you have money for the ticket?" "I am going to try to sell the homemade hand pies I have left. I hope I can earn enough." "I can help you. I know a corner where a lot of people pass by." And that is what we did. We spent the next few hours walking the streets, offering the homemade hand pies. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, despite looking like a woman without a home, had a warm, gentle way of speaking to people. Some bought out of pity, others because they truly liked them. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon we had sold everything. I counted the money. $50, just enough for the ticket and a little food for the trip. As I tell you this, I think about how often we cling to people who no longer want us. And still we wonder if we did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? Let me know in the comments. "Thank you, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes," I said. "Without you, I would not have been able to earn this money." "You're welcome, dear. I am glad I could help you." We walked together to the bus station. We arrived at 2:30 in the afternoon. My bus was leaving in 30 minutes. I bought the ticket and then sat with Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes on a bench at the station. "Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, I would like to give you something before I leave." I took $10 from my pocket and held it out to her. "No, Martha, that money is yours. Please accept it. You helped me more than you can imagine." She took the money with tears in her eyes. "May God bless you, Martha. You are an angel." "I am not an angel," I replied. I am just a woman who met another good woman when she needed it most. We hugged. I felt her fragile body against mine, the smell of an old sweater and dust, but also her warmth, her humanity. Take good care of yourself, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. You too, dear. And remember, she said, what you gave that elderly woman last night, life will return to you multiplied. You will see. I did not understand what she meant. I was the only elderly woman she had met that night. Plus, before I could ask, my bus was announced. I have to go, I said. Go in peace, dear. I picked up my suitcase and walked toward the boarding gate. Before getting on, I turned back to say goodbye to Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, but she was no longer there. I searched the entire station with my eyes. She had disappeared. I felt something strange in my chest, as if I had just lost something important. I did not have time to think about it. The bus was about to depart. I boarded and found my seat by the window. As the bus pulled away, I took one last look at the station, the city that had rejected me, the son who had shut the door in my face. I cried silently the entire way home. What I did not know was that my story with Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes was only beginning, and that her words were true. Life was about to return everything I had given, in the most unexpected way. I arrived in my town at dusk on January 1st. The bus dropped me off in the main square, in front of the church where I had married Thomas so many years earlier. Everything looked the same streets, the same trees, the same houses glowing with dim lights. But I was no longer the same. I walked 3 blocks to my house. It was a small single-story home with faded yellow walls. I had bought it with the savings of my entire life. I opened the door. The smell of dampness and stale air hit me. No one had been there during the 2 days I was gone. I set my suitcase on the floor, sat down on the old couch in the living room, and stayed there in the dark without the strength to turn on the light. My mind would not stop. I thought about Jason, about Victoria, about the door closing in my face. But I also thought about Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, about her sudden disappearance from the station, about her last words. What you gave that elderly woman last night, life will return to you multiplied. Which elderly woman? What was she talking about? I had only helped her, unless I had not. It made no sense. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes was real. She had eaten with me, slept beside me, sold homemade hand pies with me. She was flesh and blood. So why had she disappeared like that? I shook my head. I was tired. My mind was playing tricks on me. She must have left while I was boarding the bus. That was all. The first days of January passed slowly. I did not go out much. I did not feel like seeing anyone. My neighbors knocked to wish me a happy new year. I thanked them from the doorway and shut myself back inside. Mrs. Hope, my lifelong neighbor, grew concerned. Martha, are you all right? You look very thin. Have you eaten? Yes, Mrs. Hope, I am fine. Just a little tired. Did you go see Jason on New Year's? That question hurt like a knife. Yes. And how is my boy? In the town, everyone remembered Jason as the good child who had gone off to study in the city, the pride of the neighborhood. He is fine, I replied. Very busy. I am sure he already has plans for you to move in with him, right? A young man like that would not leave his mother alone here. I did not answer. I smiled sadly and closed the door. On January 5th, I decided I had to do something. I could not stay locked inside forever. I needed to work. I needed something to distract me. I went back to the laundry shop where I had worked for years. Mrs. Rose, the owner, welcomed me with open arms. Martha, it is so good to see you. Are you here to work? Yes, Mrs. Rose, if you still have room for me. There is always room for you. You can start tomorrow if you want. And that is exactly what I did. I returned to my routine. I woke up at 5 in the morning, went to the laundry shop, washed other people's clothes for 8 hours, came home exhausted, ate something simple and went to bed. But the nights were still hard because when everything fell silent, my mind would not let me rest. Thought about Jason. I wondered if he was all right, if he missed me even a little, if he regretted slamming the door in my face. Part of me wanted to call him to hear his voice. But another part of me, the part Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes had awakened, told me not to. If he wanted to speak to me, he had to take the first step. 2 weeks passed, then 3, then 4. On February 15th, my birthday arrived. I turned 61. No one remembered, or at least no one called. Mrs. Hope brought me a slice of leftover cake from her grandson's party, but that was all. Jason did not call. Not a message. Not even a "Happy birthday, Mom." That night I cried until I fell asleep. I felt more alone than ever. Then something strange began to happen. On February 18th, 2 days after my birthday, I was working at the laundry shop when an elegant woman walked in. She was wearing a gray tailored suit, high heels, and carrying a leather briefcase. "Are you Mrs. Martha Bennett?" she asked. "Yes, that is me. How can I help you?" "My name is Catherine Thorne. I am an attorney and I need to speak with you. It is an urgent matter." My heart skipped a beat. An attorney? What could an attorney possibly want with me? Did something happen? Is it my son? Is he all right? "This is not about your son, Mrs. Bennett. It is another matter. Could we speak in private?" I looked at Mrs. Rose. She nodded. "Go, Martha. I will handle things here." We stepped outside and the attorney took me to a nearby cafe. We sat at a table in the back. "I am here representing a client who for now wishes to remain anonymous," she explained. "This person asked me to find you specifically." "Me? Why?" "My client was present on the night of New Year's Eve in Chicago, Illinois. She saw what you did." I felt the blood drain from my face. What did she see? "She saw how you helped an elderly woman who was on the street. You gave her your sweater, your sandals, and shared your food with her. My client was deeply moved by your kindness." I could not believe what I was hearing. I only did what anyone would have done. "No, Mrs. Bennett," she replied firmly. "My client stood in that plaza for more than an hour that night. She watched dozens of people walk past that woman without even looking at her. You were the only one who stopped." "And who is your client?" The attorney smiled. "I cannot reveal her identity yet, but she asked me to give you this." She took a white envelope from her briefcase and handed it to me. I took it with trembling hands. When I opened it, I saw a check. When I read the amount, I felt like I could not breathe. I saw a check for $5,000. This must be a mistake," I stammered. "It is not. My client wishes to compensate you for your kindness. And this is only the beginning." "The beginning of what?" "I do not understand. My client has a proposal for you, but first she wants to get to know you better. She wants to be sure you are the right person." "The right person for what?" The attorney leaned toward me. "Tell me, Mrs. Bennett, how attached are you to this town? How tied are you to your current life?" The question caught me off guard. This is my home. I have lived here my entire life. But is there anything that truly binds you here? Close family? Important commitments? I thought of Jason, but he did not want me near. I thought of my neighbors, but none were truly close. I thought of my job, but it was just work anyone could do. "No," I finally answered. "There is nothing that truly ties me here." The attorney smiled. "Perfect. Then I must ask you a very important question. Would you be willing to move to Chicago, Illinois, and begin a new life?" "Move? For what?" "My client needs companionship. She is an elderly person with no close family. After seeing what you did that night, she believes you would be the ideal companion." "Companionship as a nurse?" "Not exactly. As a friend. A confidant. Someone to share her home with." My head was spinning. "Who exactly is your client? Why all the secrecy?" "She is a 75-year-old woman, a very wealthy widow. She has no children and no close relatives. After seeing you that night, she decided she wanted to meet you." Something shifted inside me. A memory. A soft voice in the darkness of a cold doorway. "Mrs. Vanderbilt Ace," I whispered. The attorney raised her eyebrows. "So you have already met. That makes things much easier." "But Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes was on the street, barefoot, without a home." "No, Mrs. Bennett. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes was not homeless. She was testing you." "Testing me?" "My client does this every year. During the holidays, she disguises herself as a homeless person. He watches how people react. Who helps? Who ignores? It is her way of finding truly kind people in a world full of indifference." I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. It had all been a test. And I had passed. You did more than pass, the attorney continued. You were the only person in 5 years who helped her without expecting anything in return. The only one who shared what little she had. The only one who treated her with dignity. Tears began to roll down my cheeks. I did not do anything special. I just saw someone who needed help. Exactly, she replied. And that is what makes you special. I do not need any reward. I know. And that is precisely why you deserve it. The attorney took a folder out of her briefcase. My client asked me to offer you the following. A home in Chicago, Illinois in her own residence. A private room fully furnished. All meals included. And a monthly salary of $3,000 for keeping her company. It was more than I earned in several months at the laundry shop. I looked at the check I was still holding in my hands. $5,000. Enough money to change my life. Why would she do all this for me? I asked, my voice trembling. Because she is alone. Because despite all her wealth she has no one. And because in you she saw something she had not seen in anyone else. A truly kind heart. I need time to think, I said finally. Of course. Take your time, Catherine Thorne replied. But not too long. My client is eager to see you again, this time as who she truly is. The attorney stood up, handed me her card and added, Call me when you have made your decision. My number is there. She left, leaving me alone with a $5,000 check and a decision that could change my life forever. That night I could not sleep. I went over everything again and again. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, the test, the offer. Part of me wanted to accept. I wanted to leave that town. Start over. Feel that my life had a purpose beyond washing other people's clothes. But another part of me was afraid. Afraid of the unknown. Afraid of leaving behind everything I knew. Then I thought about Jason. If I moved to Chicago, Illinois, I would be closer to him. Maybe I could see him from time to time. Maybe we could fix things. Or maybe not. Maybe it was time to stop living for my son and start living for myself. I spent 3 days thinking. 3 days when I barely ate and barely slept. I kept coming back to the same question over and over. In the end I knew. I had to accept. On February 20th I made my decision. I called the attorney. Miss Thorne, this is Martha Bennett. Mrs. Bennett, it is so good to hear from you. Have you made a decision? I took a deep breath. Yes. I accept. I want to meet your client. I want to hear what she has to say. I could hear a smile in her voice. Excellent. My client will be delighted. Can you travel to the city this Friday? Yes, I can. Perfect. A driver will be waiting for you at the station to take you to my client's residence. Residence? Yes. She lives in an exclusive area of the city in the Gold Coast. You will see, Mrs. Bennett, your life is about to change. We hung up. I stared at my phone, still unable to fully believe what was happening. Mrs. Rose gave me the day off when I explained that I had to travel. I did not tell her where or why. I only said it was something important. On February 23rd, I boarded the first-class bus. It was the first time in my life I had ever traveled like that. The seats were wide and comfortable with room to stretch my legs. They offered us water and cookies. Each seat had its own screen. I felt out of place. The other passengers wore elegant suits, carried laptops, and used expensive phones. I was wearing my only decent dress, the same one I had worn years earlier to Jason's graduation. I tried not to think about it and to enjoy the ride. We arrived in Chicago, Illinois at 2 in the afternoon. At the station, just as the attorney had promised, a driver was waiting for me. He was an older man, wearing a black uniform and holding a sign with my name on it. Mrs. Martha Bennett. Yes, that is me. Nice to meet you. I am Marcus. I am here to take you to Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. He led me to a large, gleaming black car. It was an Audi. I had never been inside a car like that. The interior smelled like new leather and expensive perfume. Marcus drove for 20 minutes through streets I did not recognize. We passed wide avenues lined with trees, modern buildings, elegant restaurants, and designer stores I had only ever seen on television. We entered a residential area. The streets were clean and quiet. Security guards stood at the corners. The houses were enormous, with manicured gardens and tall gates. "We are almost there, Mrs. Bennett," Marcus said. My heart was pounding. Suddenly I felt afraid. What was I doing? Why had I agreed to come? I did not know these people. I knew nothing about their lives. But it was too late to turn back. The car stopped in front of a house. It was not a mansion, but it was imposing. It had 2 stories, white walls, and enormous windows. The garden looked like it belonged in a magazine. In the center, a fountain of clear water sparkled in the sunlight. Marcus stepped out and opened my door. "Go ahead, Mrs. Bennett. They are expecting you." I got out with shaking legs and walked toward the entrance. Before I could ring the bell, the door opened. There she was, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. But she was not the woman I had met on the street. She was wearing an elegant beige dress. Her white hair was perfectly styled. A pearl necklace rested at her throat, and discreet earrings completed her look. She looked different, but her eyes were the same, calm, deep, full of kindness. "Martha," she said with a smile, "welcome to my home." I did not know what to say. I stood there, frozen, trying to take in what I was seeing. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. "Forgive me for the deception, dear, but I had to be sure." "Sure of what?" "That truly good people still exist in this world. And you proved it to me." She took my hand and led me inside. The house was even more impressive within: gleaming marble floors, elegant furniture, carefully chosen paintings, and a wooden staircase leading to the second floor. "Come sit down. We have a lot to talk about." We settled into the living room. A staff member appeared with coffee and cookies. I could not stop looking at every detail around me. Everything felt unreal, like I was dreaming. "I imagine you have many questions," Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes said. "Why?" was the only thing I could manage. "Why pretend to be someone you are not?" She sighed, calm and composed. "Because over the years I learned that money changes people. When they know you have it, the way they treat you changes. You can no longer tell whether they care about you for who you are or for what you own. That is why, every year during the holidays, I disguise myself and go out into the street. I want to see how I am treated when people believe I have nothing." "That is very sad." "It is," she admitted, "but it is also necessary. Do you know how many people have helped me in the last 5 years?" "Your attorney said 3. "Exactly. 3 people in 5 years. And you were the only one who shared what little you had without thinking twice. I did not do it for money or a reward." "I know," she said. "And that is why you are here." Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes took a small sip of her coffee. "Let me tell you who I really am. My full name is Eleanor Vanderbilt Hayes. I am 75 years old. I have been a widow for 20 years. My husband, Richard, founded Hayes Hardware Supplies. When he died, he left me the company, the properties, and the investments. I became a very rich woman." She paused before continuing. "But money does not give happiness. It gives comfort and security, yes, but not love, not companionship, not a sense of purpose. You told me you had a daughter." Her eyes filled with tears. "Yes, Sarah, my only daughter. What I told you that night was true. She died of cancer 5 years ago. She was 35. I sold everything I could to pay for her treatment." She took a deep breath. "Not everything, but a great deal. It did not work. She died in my arms on December 26, 2019. I am so sorry. Since then I have been alone. I have no siblings, my parents died years ago, and I have no close relatives. Only employees, attorneys, accountants, people who work for me but who do not know me." She looked straight into my eyes. "That is why I was looking for you, Martha. When I saw you help me that night, I saw something I had not seen in years. True kindness, sincere compassion. And I thought you were the person I wanted by my side." "But I am not anyone special," I said. "I am a simple woman from a small town." "That is precisely why I want you here," she replied. "Because you do not see me as money. You see me as a person. Like that elderly woman shivering in the cold on the street. The one you gave your coat to without thinking about the cost." She pulled an envelope from the pocket of her dress. "I want to make you an offer, and I need you to think carefully before you answer." She opened it. Inside were several documents. I am offering you a home here with me. You will have your own bedroom, your own bathroom, 3 meals a day and clothing if you need it. And a monthly salary of $4,000. Not $3,000 like Catherine Thorne told you. I asked her to mention less so you would not feel overwhelmed. $4,000. It was more money than I had ever held at one time in my entire life. All I ask in return is your company, she continued. That we have breakfast together, watch movies, that you tell me about your life. I want us to do the things friends do. That is what I want, Martha. A friend, not an employee. Tears began to slide down my cheeks. But I do not deserve all this. Yes, you do, she said softly. Good people deserve good things. Life has not treated you kindly. I saw it in your eyes that night. The pain, the abandonment, the loneliness. We were 2 women alone in a cold doorway. That is true, I whispered. But you do not have to be alone anymore. And I do not want to be alone either. We can take care of each other. We can be the family we both lost. I stood up and walked to the window. I looked at the immaculate garden, the fountain shining in the sunlight, the blue sky above the city. I thought about my house, my small town in Alabama, the laundry, my endless days washing other people's clothes, my silent nights in front of the television, my forgotten birthdays. Then I thought about Jason. About the door closing in my face. About his silence on my birthday. Something inside me broke, but not with sadness. With relief. I turned back to Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. I accept, I said. I accept your offer. She smiled, stood up and hugged me tightly. Thank you, Martha. Thank you for giving this lonely old woman a chance. Thank you, I replied, for seeing me when no one else did. We stayed like that for what felt like an eternity. 2 women who had lost everything and found each other exactly when they needed it most. When would you like to move in? She asked. I need to go back to my town, get my things in order, say goodbye to a few neighbors and resign from my job. Give me a week. Take all the time you need. Marcus will take you back today and will come for you when you are ready. I nodded. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes showed me the room that would be mine. It was on the 2nd floor. It was enormous, larger than my entire house back home. It had a wide bed with soft white sheets, a carved wooden wardrobe, a desk by the window, and a private bathroom with a bathtub and a separate shower. This will be your space, she said. Your place. You can decorate it however you like, bring your things, arrange it to your taste, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes added. Make this a place where you feel at home. I looked around the room, unable to believe it. It felt like a luxury hotel suite. It is too much, I murmured. It is not, she replied firmly. It is what you deserve. Then she added, and Martha, one more thing. She handed me a thicker envelope. There is $10,000 here in cash. To take care of things back home. To pay any debts, buy new clothes if you need them, whatever you decide. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, I cannot accept that much money. Yes, you can and you will, she said gently without leaving room for argument. Because I want to, because I can, and because you deserve it. I took the envelope with trembling hands. I had never held $10,000 in my life. I never imagined I would. I do not know what to say. Do not say anything, she replied. Just promise me one thing. What? That you will be happy here. That you will allow yourself to be happy. That you will leave the pain behind and open your heart to this new life. I looked into her eyes and saw something I had not seen clearly in a very long time. Hope. I promise, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. That same afternoon, Marcus took me back to the bus station. Before I left, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes hugged me. I will be waiting for you, Martha. This house will have life in it again. The entire trip back I could not stop smiling. For the first time in years I felt that my life had a purpose. That someone wanted me close. That I mattered. But there was one thought that still hurt, something I could not push out of my mind. I had to tell Jason. Tell him that I was moving to Chicago, Illinois. Would he even care? Part of me wanted to call him and say, "Look, son, my life has changed. I am no longer that poor mother who embarrassed you." But another part of me, the stronger one, said no. If he had been able to shut the door on me at my worst, he did not deserve to know me at my best. And that part won. I decided not to tell him anything. I would move without warning. I would start my new life without him. Because sometimes loving someone also means knowing when to step away, accepting that you cannot force anyone to love you, and having the dignity to move forward even when it hurts. I arrived back in my town that night. I walked into my house and for the first time in a long while I felt at peace. My life was about to change for the better and I was ready. The next 7 days were a whirlwind. On February 24th I spent the day organizing my life, deciding what to take with me and what to leave behind. I did not have much. Old clothes, a few books, photographs, memories. Everything fit into 2 medium-sized suitcases. On Sunday I went to see Mrs. Rose. I need to resign, I told her. She looked at me in surprise. Resign? Why, Martha? Did something happen? No, nothing bad. Quite the opposite. I am moving to Chicago, Illinois. I was offered an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? I did not want to give too many details. I am going to work keeping an elderly woman company. They are offering housing, meals, and good pay. Mrs. Rose nodded slowly. I understand. I will miss you. You have been a good worker all these years. Thank you. I will miss you too. He paid me for my final week, $200. An amount that now felt small compared to what Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes had given me. On Monday I went to the bank and opened a savings account for the first time in my life. I deposited $10,000. The clerk looked at me in surprise. Where did you get so much money, ma'am? It was a gift, I replied. I did not owe any further explanation. On Friday, February 28th, I began saying goodbye to my neighbors. Mrs. Hope cried when I told her I was leaving. Alone, Martha? That is dangerous for a woman your age. I will be fine. I will be with good people. Do not worry. And Jason, does he know you are leaving? That question hurt. No. And I do not plan to tell him. But he is your son. My son slammed the door in my face, did not call me on my birthday, and has not asked about me in 2 months. I do not think it matters to him whether I stay or go. Mrs. Hope did not say anything else. He just hugged me. On Friday, March 1st, Marcus came to pick me up. I loaded my 2 suitcases into the car. I looked one last time at my little yellow house, the street where I had lived my entire life, the town that had seen me born, married, raise my son, and grow old. I did not feel nostalgia. I felt relief. As if I were finally setting down a weight I had carried for years. The trip to Chicago, Illinois took the same 12 hours as always, but this time it was different. This time I was not going to beg for my son's love. This time I was going toward a new life. A life I had chosen for myself. We arrived at Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes's home as evening fell. She was waiting at the door with a radiant smile. Martha, welcome to your new home. She hugged me tightly, and in that gesture I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Someone was genuinely happy to see me. Come, your room is ready. And I prepared dinner. Your favorite. Homemade hand pies and sweet corn beverage. She smiled. Well, not as good as yours, but I did my best. We went up to my room. It was exactly as I remembered it. Spacious, bright, perfect. Marcus carried my suitcases upstairs. Take your time settling in, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes said. When you are ready, I will be waiting downstairs for dinner. I was alone in that enormous room. I opened my suitcases and began taking out my clothes. They looked old and worn next to the elegance of the place, but I did not care. They were my clothes, my things, my life. I hung everything in the wardrobe and arranged my photographs on the desk. One of Jason as a child, one from my wedding with Thomas, and one of my mother who had died 10 years earlier. I stared at Jason's photograph for a long time. His childish smile, his eyes full of innocence. When had he changed? When had he stopped being that boy who loved me without conditions? I put the photograph into a drawer. I did not want to see it every day. I did not want to wake up every morning with that pain. I went downstairs for dinner. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes had set the table with elegant china, cloth napkins, and crystal glasses. The homemade hand pies were steaming on a porcelain platter. Please sit. Let us have dinner together. During dinner, she asked me countless questions about my life, my town, and my memories. I answered everything, and for the first time in a very long while, I felt that someone was truly interested in what I had to say. Tomorrow is Saturday, she said. I thought we could go shopping. You need new clothes. She looked at me with determination. And do not tell me no. It is part of the deal. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, you have already done too much for me. It is not enough. It will never be enough to make up for your kindness that night. The days that followed felt like a dream. She took me to stores I had only known from magazines. She bought me dresses, shoes, blouses and pants. I protested in every store, but she ignored me. Let me spoil you, Martha. I have not had anyone to spoil in a very long time. She also took me to a beauty salon. They cut my hair, colored it to cover the gray, and gave me a facial treatment. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked different, younger, more alive. 2 weeks passed, then 3, then a month. My life with Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes was calm but happy. We had breakfast together every morning. She told me stories about her life with Richard, her late husband, about her travels and her daughter Sarah. I told her about my childhood, my mother, and what it had been like to raise Jason alone. We became friends, real friends. There were no differences between us, just two women sharing their lives. But something made me uncomfortable. Every time Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes introduced me to someone, she introduced me as her companion. I knew that, in theory, I was, but the word made me feel smaller, as if I were an employee. One day in mid-April, I gathered the courage to say it. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, may I ask you a favor? Of course, Martha. Anything. Could you introduce me as your friend instead of your companion? I asked. I know I work for you, but... She interrupted me, taking my hand. Forgive me. You are absolutely right. You are not my employee. You are my friend, my family. And that is how I will introduce you from now on. I smiled. For the first time, I felt completely at ease in my new life. But then one day in May, everything changed. It was Sunday, Mother's Day, May 11th. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes and I had gone out for breakfast at the Grand Bistro, an elegant restaurant near her home. We were eating and drinking coffee when I heard a voice that made my blood run cold. Mom. I knew that voice. I turned slowly, and there he was, Jason, standing a few steps from our table, his eyes wide with shock. Beside him stood Victoria, looking at me with the same familiar disdain. Jason, I whispered. He stepped closer and looked me up and down as if he could not believe what he was seeing. I was wearing one of the dresses Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes had bought for me, deep wine-colored, elegant and understated. My hair had been freshly cut and colored. Around my neck was a silver necklace she had given me. I did not look like the exhausted woman who had knocked on his door on New Year's Eve. I looked different. What are you doing here? He asked. I live here, I replied calmly. You live here in the city? Since when? For 2 months. I saw the impact on his face. And something else. Guilt? And why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you call? The question angered me. And why didn't you call me, Jason? I shot back. Why didn't you call me on my birthday? Why haven't you called me in 4 months? He lowered his gaze. Victoria stepped closer and looked at me with contempt. Martha, what a surprise to see you here. This restaurant is quite exclusive for someone like you. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, who had remained silent until then, spoke firmly. Excuse me, who are you to speak to Martha like that? Victoria looked at her, startled. I'm her daughter-in-law. And who are you? I am Eleanor Vanderbilt Hayes. And Martha is my best friend. She lives with me in my home. Victoria's face changed. She recognized the last name. In the city's business circles, it was very well known. She went pale, glanced at Jason, then back at me. I didn't know you knew someone so important. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes smiled coolly. Martha is more than important. She is one of the most noble people I have ever known, something you clearly do not know how to value. Jason cut in, nervous. Mom, we need to talk. Please. I looked at him. In his eyes I saw something I had not seen in years. Fear. Fear of losing me. Not out of love, but because now I had something he wanted. Connections, access to a world he had always aspired to. We have nothing to talk about, Jason. Please, Mom. I know things haven't been good between us, but... I interrupted him. You slammed the door in my face on New Year's Eve. You left me on the street with nowhere to go. And now you want to talk. I'm sorry. Victoria and I had plans. And so what? I asked. Were those plans more important than your mother? More important than the woman who sacrificed her entire life for you? People in the restaurant began to stare. Victoria turned red with embarrassment. Martha, please don't make a scene, she whispered. A scene? I replied. You made me feel like a burden, like an inconvenience. And now that you see I'm with someone important, now you want to talk to me. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes stood up. I think it's time for us to leave, Martha. I stood as well and picked up my bag. Mom, wait, Jason said, grabbing my arm. I pulled away immediately. You had 4 months to call me, Jason. 4 months to apologize, to ask how I was. You didn't. Now it's too late. Don't say that. You're my mother. You always will be. I am your mother, yes. But you stopped being my son that night. The words came out before I could stop them, and the moment I said them, I knew they were true. I saw the pain on his face, but I felt no satisfaction. Only release. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes and I left the restaurant. Marcus was waiting outside. We got into the car. I did not look back. I did not want to see whether Jason was watching us or wondering if he regretted anything. The entire ride home we said nothing. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes took my hand and squeezed it tightly. When we arrived home, she finally spoke. Are you all right? Yes, I said. I'm all right, for the first time in a very long time. I'm truly all right. And it was true. Because although I had lost my son, I had gained something far more important. My dignity, my peace, and my freedom. That night I cried. I cried for the son I had lost, for the child I had raised with so much love who was now a stranger, for the years I had spent waiting for his approval. But I also cried with relief, because I had finally closed that chapter of my life. Letting go hurt, but it also felt right. Several days passed after that encounter. I kept my routine with Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, but something inside me had changed. I no longer felt that constant weight in my chest or the anxiety of having to prove I was a good mother. I was free. On May 18th, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes called me into her study, a room I rarely entered. It was on the ground floor, filled with books, documents, and old photographs. There was a large mahogany desk, and behind it hung a large portrait of Richard, her late husband. Sit down, Martha. I need to talk to you about something important. I sat across from her. Her expression was serious but steady. Did something bad happen, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes? No. Quite the opposite. I want to talk to you about something I've been thinking about for weeks. She pulled a folder from one of the desk drawers. I am 75 years old, she said. I have lived longer than I ever imagined. I feel well now, but I know I will not live forever. No one does. Please do not say that, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. This is not pessimism, my dear. It is realism. And that is why I need to talk to you about my last will and testament. My heart began to race. My will, she repeated. As you know, I have no family. My daughter passed away. My husband passed away. I have no siblings, no nieces or nephews. When I am gone, everything I have will be left with no one. But surely you have friends. She smiled sadly. Friends. When you have money, you never know who is truly your friend and who is only close out of interest. That is why I run those tests every year. And the other 2 people who helped you? I asked. The first was a young man of 22. I offered him the same thing I offered you, but the moment he learned how much money I had, he began asking for loans and talking about business ideas. I had to cut him off. She paused. The second was a woman of 40. At first she seemed sincere, but later I discovered she was telling her family everything. They were planning things. I would rather not think about it. I had to distance myself from her as well. That is terrible. It is. But you, Martha, have been with me for 2 months, and you have not asked me for anything. Nothing beyond your salary, which you earn simply by being my companion. You have not tried to manipulate me. You have not brought your family here to ask me for favors. She stopped and took a deep breath. You have not done what your son tried to do last week. I froze. What? Jason came looking for me 3 days ago. He came alone without his wife. He came here, to this house. Here. Yes. I asked Marcus to let him in. I wanted to hear what he wanted. And I already suspected. What did he want? Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes opened the folder and picked up her phone. I recorded the conversation without his knowledge. I want you to listen to it, but I must warn you, it will hurt. She pressed play. Jason's voice filled the study. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, thank you for seeing me. You're welcome, Jason. Tell me, what brings you here? I want to apologize for what happened at the restaurant. I did not mean to be disrespectful. You were not disrespectful to me, she replied. You were disrespectful to your mother. There was silence. You are right. That is why I am here. I want to fix things with my mom, but she will not answer my calls. And you think I can solve that for you? I thought that maybe you could talk to her. Convince her to give me another chance. Another pause. Then Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes's voice changed, cool, precise. Let me ask you something, Jason. Why do you want to fix things now? Because you truly miss her, or because you realize she now has access to my circle? The silence stretched, far too long. I miss her. She is my mother. Your mother went 4 months without hearing from you. 4 months without a single call. You did not even look for her on her birthday, and now you say you miss her. I was busy with work, with Victoria. Too busy to call your mother, but not too busy to come to my house and ask me to intervene for you? Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, And let me guess, she cut in. You also came to test my relationship with your mother. To see whether there might be a business opportunity, an investment, any way to benefit from our closeness. Total silence. Your silence says everything, Jason. With all due respect, my mother is a simple woman from a small town. She is not used to this world. She could be vulnerable. People might take advantage of her. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes's laugh was dry, without a trace of humor. People like you? No, not me. I only want to protect her. Let me tell you something that perhaps no one has ever told you. Your mother is an extraordinary woman. She has more emotional intelligence in one finger than you have in your entire body. And no, she is not vulnerable. She is strong. Stronger than you. You do not want to protect her. You want to control her. You want access to what she has now. My friendship, my connections, my money. She paused briefly, then delivered the final blow. Your mother does not need your protection, and she certainly does not need your performative regret. You do not understand. I understand perfectly. You are an ungrateful son who remembers his mother only when it suits him. And I will not allow you to hurt her again. I have the right to see her. You have the right to ask. But she has the right to decide. And so far she has decided no, and I fully support her. This is not over. Is that a threat, Jason? I am only saying that legally she is my mother. Legally you have no power over her, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes replied. She is an adult woman, fully competent. I suggest you leave and do not return. You will regret this. The only thing I regret, she said calmly, is not closing the door on you sooner, just as you closed the door on her on New Year's Eve. Footsteps. A door closing. End of recording. I was shaking. Tears streamed down my face. I am sorry, Martha, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes said. I know that was hard. He only wants my money. He does not want me. I know, my dear. And that is why I showed you this, so you would have no doubts. So you would understand that you made the right decision by stepping away. I covered my face with my hands. I cried, not from sadness but from rage, from disappointment, from a pain so deep I did not even know how to name it. How could I have raised someone like that? I whispered. When did he become this? Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes stood up, knelt in front of me and took my hands. Listen to me carefully, Martha. None of this is your fault. You did everything you could. You gave him love and education, values. But every person chooses who they decide to become. She spoke slowly as if every word carried weight. And your son chose money over love. But he is my son, my only son, and he always will be. That does not mean you have to accept his mistreatment, she said gently. Sometimes the greatest act of love is creating distance. We stayed like that for a long while, she kneeling in front of me holding my hands, me crying and finally releasing everything I had carried for years. When I finally calmed down, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes sat back down. That is why I want to talk to you about my last will and testament. Because I have already made a decision. She opened the folder again and took out several documents. Martha, I want to name you my sole heir. I felt as if the world had stopped. What? I want to leave you everything. This house, my properties, my investments, the company shares. All of it. No, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. That is too much. I cannot. Yes, you can. And you deserve it. In these 2 months, you have given me something I no longer had. Family, true companionship, unconditional affection. I want to make sure that when I am no longer here, you will have everything you need to live well for the rest of your life. But I do not need your money. I only need your friendship. I know, she replied. And that is precisely why I am offering it to you. Because I know you are not seeking it. Because I know you will not waste it. Because I know you will use it to do good. I shook my head, still overwhelmed. I cannot accept. It is your life, your work, your legacy. And I want it to be yours. But there is one condition. What condition? That when I die, you use part of that money to help women like you. Older women who are alone, who were abandoned, who need a second chance. She took a deep breath and added, I want you to create a foundation in honor of my daughter Sarah. The Sarah Foundation. I was left speechless. I do not know what to say, Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes. Do not say anything now. Think about it. Talk to my lawyers. Fully understand what it means. And if after that you still want to refuse, I will respect your decision. But please think about it carefully. Over the following days, I met several times with Catherine Thorne, the attorney. She was direct and clear with me. She calmly explained the true scale of Eleanor's fortune. Properties, investments, equity stakes, accounts. It was an amount of money my mind simply could not comprehend. Mrs. Bennett, she said, are you aware that this would make you one of the wealthiest women in the country? Yes, I replied. And that is exactly what scares me. Why? Because I am a simple woman from a small town. I know nothing about business, investments, or this world. She smiled patiently. You do not have to. That is what we are here for. Lawyers, accountants, managers. You will make the final decisions. I will be by your side every step of the way. And if I ruin everything, you will not. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes has seen in you something far more valuable than any university degree. Integrity, kindness, and common sense. With that, and with the right team, you will be just fine. On May 26th, I made my decision. I told Eleanor that I accepted. She cried with happiness. Thank you, Martha. Thank you for giving me peace. Now I know my legacy will be in good hands. That same day we signed the documents. Catherine Thorne handled everything. The will was officially registered. I was legally the sole heir of Eleanor Vanderbilt Hayes. But that day something else happened, something I did not expect. Eleanor handed me another document. What is this? I asked. A bank transfer in your name, for $100,000. I felt the air leave my lungs. 100,000? Why? Because I want you to have it now while I am still alive. I want to see you enjoy it. I want you to do whatever you wish with it. Travel, buy what you need, or simply save it. It is yours, no conditions. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, it is too much. It is not. It is fair. He paused, then added, and there is one more thing I want you to do with part of that money. What is it? I want you to send money to Jason. I froze completely. What? Why would I do that? Because despite everything, he is still your son. And I know that part of you still worries about him. Send him $5,000 with no explanation. Just send it, and then close that chapter forever. After what I heard on that recording. Precisely because of that, she interrupted. Do it so he understands that you are not acting out of need but out of who you are, as his mother. So he sees that even when he does not deserve it, you are still a better person than he is. She looked at me calmly. That Martha is a moral victory. The only kind that is truly worth anything. I thought about it all night. In the end, I decided to do it. On May 28th, I transferred $5,000 to Jason. No message. No explanation. Just the money. 2 hours later, he called. I did not answer. He sent a message. Mom, what is this? Where did you get so much money? I did not reply. Then another message arrived. Mom, please, we need to talk. I did not answer that one either. Finally, he wrote, I love you, Mom. I am so sorry for everything that happened. I read it. I felt something in my chest, but it was not love. It was pity. Pity for a son who had chosen money above all else, who only knew how to say, I love you when it benefited him. I blocked his number. And with that simple act, I closed, forever, the chapter of Jason in my life. That night, Eleanor and I had dinner together. We toasted with red wine. To new lives, she said. To second chances, I replied. To women who rise again. To those who choose dignity over pain. We clinked our glasses. In that moment, I knew I had made the right decision. I had lost my son, but I had gained a family. A mother who had not given me life, but who had chosen me. And I had chosen her. In a world so cruel that was worth more than any bond of blood. The months passed. June arrived with gentle rain, July with intense heat, August with clear skies. I continued living with Eleanor, building a life I had never imagined possible. But the world has mysterious ways of settling accounts. Even though I had stepped away from Jason, the universe was not finished with him. It was a Saturday in September, the 14th to be exact, when I learned what had happened. Catherine Thorne came to visit us. Her face showed a strange mix of concern and quiet satisfaction. Mrs. Bennett, I need to tell you something. It is about your son. My heart skipped. Did something happen to him? That depends on how you look at it. Jason lost his job. What? When? 2 weeks ago. He was fired for misconduct. He tried to use Eleanor's name to secure contracts for his company. He claimed to have connections with the Hayes Hardware Supplies family. His supervisor investigated, discovered it was false, and dismissed him. I covered my mouth. But that is not all, Catherine continued. Victoria left him. She discovered that Jason had spent their savings trying to keep up appearances. Expensive restaurants, designer clothes, a new car they could not afford. And then, when she saw the debts, she packed her bags and left to stay with her parents. She filed for divorce 1 week ago. I felt something unexpected. Not joy. Astonishment. The universe was indeed collecting its debts. Where is he now? I asked. He had to leave his apartment. He could not pay the rent. He is staying with a friend, or so I was told. Eleanor, who had listened in silence, spoke. Life always finds a way to teach lessons. Your son rejected his mother when she had nothing. And now that he has nothing, he is alone. It was true. Jason had shut the door when I needed him most. And now when he needed someone, he had no one. Has he tried to contact you? Catherine asked. I blocked his number months ago. I do not know. Probably. His pride is costing him dearly. Weeks passed. October arrived with cold winds. And then something unexpected happened. It was October 22nd. Eleanor and I were in the garden drinking tea when Marcus approached. Mrs. Vanderbilt Hayes, there is a young man at the gate. He says he is Mrs. Bennett's son. He says he needs to speak with her. He says it is urgent. My heart began to pound. Tell him to leave, I said immediately. Wait, Martha, Eleanor intervened. Perhaps you should listen to him once, so you do not carry any doubt. I have no doubt, I replied. He does. I took a deep breath. Let him in. I will be here with you, Eleanor said calmly. If he says anything out of line, Marcus will escort him out immediately. I hesitated for a few seconds, then nodded. All right. Let him come. Minutes later, Jason appeared in the garden and I barely recognized him. The confident, well-dressed man I had seen at the restaurant was gone. In front of me stood someone else. Worn jeans, a wrinkled shirt, a thinner frame, deep dark circles under his eyes, a dull gaze. He looked defeated. "Hi, Mom," he said hoarsely. He stopped several steps away as if unsure he had the right to come closer. "Thank you for seeing me." "I did not do it for you," I replied. "I did it for myself. To close this once and for all." He nodded slowly. "I understand. I came to apologize, to truly apologize." He fell silent for a moment. "Now that I have lost everything, I know how this sounds. I know you will think I am here only because I am in trouble. And maybe you're right. Maybe I am as selfish as you believe." "It is not what I believe, Jason," I said calmly. "It is who you are." His eyes filled with tears. "You are right. I was selfish, ungrateful, everything I should never have been. But, Mom, I swear I regret it. If I could go back, I would have opened that door on New Year's Eve. I would have hugged you. I would have let you stay." "You cannot go back," I interrupted. "And I am no longer the woman who knocked on your door that night." "I know," he said. "And I am glad. You look good. You look happy. Better than I have seen you in years." "Because I finally found people who value me," I replied, "who see me as a person, not as an obligation." He lowered his gaze. "May I ask you something?" "That depends." "Why did you send me that money months ago? $5,000 with no explanation." "Because despite everything you are still my son," I answered. "And I wanted you to have something. But I also wanted you to understand something else. That I do not need you to be well. That I can live without you." "Message received," he murmured. I understood. But I understood too late. There was a long silence. "Mom, I did not come to ask you for money. I did not come to ask you to rescue me. I only came to tell you I am sorry. That I was wrong. That I was the worst son in the world. And that if someday in the future you can forgive me, I will be here." I looked at him carefully. In his eyes I saw something I had never seen before. Real remorse, or at least the closest thing to it. "Jason, I forgive you," I said at last. "But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It does not mean everything will go back to the way it was, because it cannot." He nodded. "I know. I forgive you because I need peace," I continued. "But I do not want you to be part of my life. Not now. Maybe not ever." Tears streamed freely down his face. "I understand, and I respect that. Take care of yourself, Mom. And be happy. You deserve it more than anyone." He turned to leave, but before reaching the gate he stopped. "Mom, may I ask you one last question?" "What is it?" "That night when you were left out on the street, what did you do? Where did you go?" I looked at Eleanor. She smiled softly. "I sat on a park bench," I replied. "And I saw an older woman barefoot, shivering from the cold. I decided to help her. I gave her my coat, my sandals, my food, and that decision changed my life. Because it turned out that woman was not who I thought she was, and her kindness ended up being even greater than mine." Jason looked at Eleanor and understood everything. "So, all of this happened because your mother has a noble heart," Eleanor interrupted. "Something you lost along the way." He did not reply. He simply nodded and left. I watched him walk away through the garden, accompanied by Marcus to the gate. And I felt nothing. No pain. No anger. Only peace. Karma had done its work. Jason had lost his job, his wife, his home, everything he valued more than his own mother. And I, the one he had rejected, now had everything. It was not revenge. It was justice. Poetic justice. "Are you all right?" Eleanor asked. "Yes," I answered. "For the first time in a very long time. I am at peace." That night as I prepared for bed, I thought about that cold New Year's Eve. About the rejection. Vain. About Eleanor disguised as a homeless woman. About every decision that had brought me here. And I understood something. Sometimes, the worst things that happen to us are the doorway to the best. Jason shutting the door in my face was the push I needed to find my true home. My true family. The universe has its way of balancing everything. Of rewarding kindness. Of collecting the debt of ingratitude. Once Jason called me foolish for helping strangers. Years later, that same act of kindness gave me a life he never could have given me. Life always collects its debts. Always. 11 months have passed since that New Year's Eve. 11 months since my son shut the door in my face. 11 months since a barefoot elderly woman changed my life forever. Today is a quiet day in November the 23rd to be exact. Eleanor and I are sitting in the garden as we do every afternoon, drinking coffee and watching the sun go down. She holds a photo album on her lap. Pictures of her daughter Sarah, of her husband Richard, of a life that no longer exists but still lives in her memory. "Do you know something, Martha?" she said suddenly. "Sometimes I think Sarah sent you to me." "Why do you say that?" "Because the day I decided to do that test on New Year's Eve was her birthday. December 26th. That day she would have turned 40. And I thought, I need to honor her memory by doing something good. By finding someone worthy of my legacy." She looked at me tenderly. "And I found you." I smiled, touched with sadness. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had not sat on that bench. If I had not seen you." "But you did," she replied. "And that changes everything." I nodded. One single decision. One single act of kindness. And my whole life changed. "May I ask you something, Eleanor?" "Of course, my dear." "Are you not afraid to leave everything to me? To trust me so completely?" She looked at me with those wise eyes full of warmth. "Afraid? Oh, Martha. I have peace. I know that when I am gone, my money will be in the hands of someone who will use it to do good. Someone who will not waste it on vanity. Someone who will never forget where she came from." "I will keep my promise," I said. "I will create that foundation for women in Sarah's honor." "I know," she smiled. "That is why I trust you." We sat in silence, watching the sun disappear behind the mountains. "I have lived 75 years, she said at last. "I have had money and lost it. I have had love and lost it. I have had health and lost that too. But there is something no one has ever been able to take from me. The certainty that kindness always comes back. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not in the way one expects. But it always comes back." Eleanor was right. I helped a stranger without expecting anything in return, and that stranger gave me a home, a family, and a future. And my son, who had everything, lost it because he chose the wrong path. That is true justice. I have thought a great deal about Jason these past months. Not with anger. Not with sadness. Only with understanding. I understand that people change, that money can corrupt, that sometimes children forget where they come from. But I also understood something essential. I cannot live waiting for him to change. I cannot place my happiness in the hands of someone who has already shown me that he does not value me. Last week, Mrs. Hope, my neighbor from the town, called me. "Martha, your son was here asking about you. He wanted to know where you are." "And what did you tell him?" "That I did not know anything. That you left months ago and did not leave an address." "Thank you, Mrs. Hope." "Are you all right, Martha? Are you sure?" That boy looked bad, desperate. "I am more than all right. I am at peace." And it was true. Because I finally understood that being a mother does not mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It does not mean accepting mistreatment just because he is your son. Being a mother also means dignity, boundaries, self-respect. Jason will have to find his own path, learn his lessons, and grow. Maybe one day when he is a different man we will talk. But that day is not today. And it may never come. And that is okay. Because my life no longer revolves around him. It revolves around me, around Eleanor, around this new family we have built together, around our plans, around the women we will help. The Sarah Foundation will open its doors in January. It will be a home for older women who are alone, who were abandoned, who need a second chance. We will give them shelter, food, emotional support, and above all, dignity. Because we all deserve dignity, regardless of age, regardless of the past. "Martha, what are you thinking about?" Eleanor asks, pulling me out of my thoughts. "About everything that has happened. About how a terrible night became the beginning of something beautiful." "That is life," she replies. "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what truly matters." "And what truly matters?" "Kindness, Martha. Only kindness. Everything else is temporary. Money comes and goes. Beauty fades. Health fails. But kindness remains. It stays in hearts, multiplies, and becomes a legacy. He was right. My legacy will not be the money I will inherit. It will be the kindness I shared, the lives I will change, the women who will find hope again when everything seems lost. The sun has completely set. Stars begin to appear in the sky. Eleanor and I stand up and head inside the house. Thank you, Eleanor, I say, for seeing me, for choosing me, for giving me this life. No, Martha, she replies. Thank you for reminding me that good people still exist in this world, for restoring my faith in humanity. We embrace. And in that embrace, I feel something I had not felt in years. Belonging, home, family. If this story can help even one woman open her eyes, it will have been worth it. If it can help someone understand that she is not obligated to accept mistreatment from anyone, not even from her own family, then all this pain had a purpose. I learned that blood does not always make a family. That true family is the one that chooses you, values you, and truly sees you. I learned that it is never too late to start over. That at 61 years old you can have a different life, fuller, truer. And I learned that kindness always comes back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it comes back. So if you are going through a difficult moment, if someone rejected you, if you feel invisible, if you think your life no longer has purpose, remember this story. Remember that a closed door can be the beginning of something extraordinary. Remember that your kindness is never in vain. And remember that you always deserve dignity, respect, and love. No matter your age, no matter your past, no matter how many times you have been hurt, you matter. And your story is still being written. Thank you for listening until the end. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs it. Sometimes a story like this can change everything. Subscribe to hear more stories of women who turned pain into wisdom. Every day a woman. Every day a life lesson. God bless you. Until next time.